Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking all about how to handle unwanted feelings. This is a tough one for a lot of people. I've been coaching now and counseling for 15 years, and this is probably the biggest struggle for people is allowing themselves to feel. And this is the biggest one if we want to transform and find happiness and more joy in our lives. So this video is for you if you have trouble sitting with yourself, if you have trouble with just being in your aloneness, being with yourself, you're constantly feeling the need to distract yourself from stillness because you don't want to feel the feelings that are associated with your experiences. This is going to be for you. So I'm glad that you're here today if this resonates with you. I'm going to be talking about some really awesome strategies that are going to help with this process towards the end of the video. So make sure you watch to the end to get all the beautiful, awesome strategies that are going to help with learning emotional tolerance. Okay, which is emotional tolerance is basically your ability to be able to tolerate the feelings that are associated with your experiences. So one of the things I want to first off say is just how normal this is for people. Feelings are very intense, and a lot of people really struggle with sitting with them, including myself. So this is where one of the reasons why I do the work I do is because I want to teach people how to end the suffering of their mind. That is pretty much my biggest purpose on this planet, is to teach people how to end their suffering and have more love and joy in their lives. So this is a big topic, and I'm really excited to be sharing this video with you guys today and some of the strategies that have worked for myself and my clients. So what is a feeling? Okay, let's break that down. So a feeling is essentially energy in motion, emotion. It's energy in motion. So it means that a feeling is something that is created in energy, and it's moving, and it constantly wants to move. And what we do as human beings is, we have this emotion. It's fluid. It's like a river, and it's wanting to flow. And as human beings, we don't want to experience the flow because we don't want to experience our emotions or the stillness associated in order to experience them. So we create these dams in our river. And these dams, basically what they do is they keep us stuck. They keep us stuck in versions of ourselves that we don't want to be anymore, because it is through feeling how we evolve, we grow, we transform, and we become the energy and the person that we want to become through working with this energy and allowing it to move. So we need to understand that it is just energy, right? When we experience these intense emotions, it's energy trying to be moved in our body, and we are creating roadblocks to it. So today I want to talk a bit about the roadblocks, and I want to talk about how we can remove these roadblocks from the road, so we can therefore progress, transform, and move forward. So I'm going to be talking about 3 strategies today, okay? Of how we handle our feelings, essentially. So the first one is suppression and repression. Okay, so people who've been following my work for a long time, I use the word repression a lot, and I want to go in a little bit more detail today because it's a concept that we can drop, but we need to understand what we're talking about. So it's basically when we put our feelings, when we put them down, we don't want to experience them. We put them to the side. So suppression is done consciously. Okay, it's done in a way that we observe the feeling arising. So it might be loneliness, and we consciously make a choice to distract or to shove the feeling down because we don't want to experience it. Repression, on the other hand, is done unconsciously. So it's done in our subconscious. So we have this experience that comes up for us, and it's playing in the tapes in the background, and we've automatically created this mechanism from so much suppression that repression happens automatically. So it requires a lot of presence if we want to work with repression, and we want to stop this from occurring because it's playing on the tapes in the background. So if we want to be aware of this, we need to find stillness. We need to find presence, so we can root ourselves in our body, and we can get connected to the emotion before the mind plays out the mechanism to put our feelings down through either repression or suppression. Okay. With that being said, fear and guilt are the 2 primary
vehicles that we use to repress and suppress our feelings, okay? Because that's what we have this experience come up for us of, let's say, jealousy. Jealousy is a really intense and heavy emotion for people to experience. So they have fear and they have guilt of having this emotion, and that is the motivator to want to repress and suppress. So if we're looking at it, we want to learn how to develop a tolerance to the fear, the resistance, and the guilt underneath the emotions, so we can therefore allow them to be present in our experience. Okay, so that's really important. So where do we learn what we associate fear, guilt, and resistance to, right? This comes from social customs. This comes from family training, right? Our families train us how to be in this world, and that's where this comes from. So we want to really be able to be aware of this and know the problem that we're working with, so we can have a solution and an answer for this problem, okay? I also want to note that suppression and repression they cause physical manifestations in our body. So if we're having experiences of tension in our tummy, tension in our shoulders, mood swings, anger responses, it might be tics, or just, not feeling comfortable in your own skin. There's so many physical manifestations that can come from repression of energy, because basically if it's energy in motion and it wants to move and we're keeping it encapsulated inside of us, we create what I call an emotional onion. And it's just a metaphor to talk a bit about some of the stuff which I'm going to touch on later in the videos, so we won't go into too much depth in it now. Okay, so fear, guilt, and resistance is what is keeping us from experiencing our emotions. But what are we doing in this suppression and repression field to prevent ourselves from actually being able to experience our emotions, and what's keeping them repressed? And there's two primary things that we use as human beings, and one of them is going to be denial, and the other one is going to be projection. Okay, so let's break these two down, because this is going to give you a pretty clear understanding of what you might be doing that is keeping you stuck in repressing your emotions. So denial is basically the mechanism we use to deny our experience. We're denying the feelings from coming up. We might do this in the mind by minimizing, rationalizing, blaming, these sorts of things, where we're just not even allowing ourselves to go into the experience of the emotion. So we're denying its existence. And this is really common for people that are repressing and suppressing, because especially people that are repressing, if it's subconscious and it's happening in the background, it's very easy to just completely deny that these things are existing. And when we're really, really good at it, we don't even feel that we have these experiences anymore, that these feelings aren't even there, and we start to get really defensive when people bring up the fact that we are feeling, that they feel aggression in our presence, or they feel that we're not connected to ourselves, or whatever it might be. People start to reflect these things back to us, and this is why when people trigger us, it's really imperative to use the treasure in that trigger to understand, okay, what's going on here? Because sometimes people see things in us and feel things in us that we're not quite connected to in ourselves because of repression and suppression, okay? The other side of the coin is going to be projection, right? So projection is an interesting psychological defense in the sense that we make the issue that we're experiencing, we externalize it, and we make it about other people. We see it in other people, and we project our experience, or lack thereof, of our emotions onto them. And we use it as a way to discharge some of the pain that we have inside of ourselves. We're discharging it by talking about it being their experience. And this is where it becomes really problematic, because we end up attracting scenarios in our life where people are constantly triggering us. And this is another area I want to explore more in detail as the video goes on, is about triggers and how we can work with these triggers, because that's what's causing a lot of unwanted feelings for us. But there's a ton of value in that, so we're going to break that down later in the video here. Okay, so number 2, the second strategy that we use to prevent ourselves, or to deal with unwanted feelings, is going to be expression. So expression
expression has two forms, okay? Because I really encourage emotional expression, but there's a but to this, because I think emotional expression can be really, really great when it's about discharge and we're releasing something that's pent up inside of us and we're letting it go. But what I also notice in this experience of expression is when we're sharing it with others and we're not taking full responsibility for the emotion. That's when it becomes problematic, because it's not other people's job to hold our emotional body, right? And to absorb our pain body and take that on as their experience. That's not their responsibility. And I think sometimes in this journey of learning how to deal with unwanted feelings, we make it other people's responsibility to hold space for us and to help us process our pain. And especially in intimate relationships, this comes up a lot. So I do want to be very mindful of how we understand expression, because I think expression can be a great way to discharge, but it also can be a way that keeps us stuck in our pain cycle. And we want to be mindful of that as well. So always look at the intention about why you're choosing to share with other people. Are you choosing to share with them because you're looking for connection and using that connection to heal, or are you using it as an opportunity to project your pain onto them through what you might be perceiving as a connection to heal, but it's really a connection to blame. So just be really mindful of that. So the second point I have here is different from surrendering the feelings through the ability to let it be, to let it go. So we want to be mindful when we're talking about expression, that ultimately we want to look at as expression as a precursor to surrendering. All right, surrendering is the most effective way to deal with unwanted feelings, because we don't feel the need to express, to discharge onto somebody else, or in the presence of somebody else. We are simply discharging these emotions in our own experience of ourselves. That's surrender, right? So if we're expressing in the presence of ourselves, that's essentially a surrender. But if we're needing other people to be part of this experience with us, it might not be the most effective way to use expression. So we want to move through the ability to feel our feelings, and how we do that is we let them be to let them go. Because when I tell somebody just let your feelings go, it just sounds very invalidating. Like how? That's what people say to me. How do I just let my feelings go? They're so intense and they hit me with such vigor. How do I just let them go? And I think we want to take the first step, which is let them be. Okay, let your emotions be. Let them be with you. Let them be present in your experience. And then we let them go. The letting go just happens. Okay, you don't do anything to let them go. You let them be, and then they go on their own. That's the key to this work, and that's the beauty of working with energy, is when you let energy be, it moves and it flows in the direction that it's already heading. It's just you're creating a roadblock within yourself, which is your emotional onion, right? So we want to peel back the layers of this emotional onion, let our emotions be, so then they'll go. Okay, important to note that. Yeah, and I just wrote here, expressing can give it greater energy, but can also allow for the discharge of energy we are looking for to feel better. So it has that dichotomous nature, right? It can create more momentum behind the energy when we share it with others, or it can discharge. It's all about the intention behind what you want to do with that emotion. Number 3, escape. Okay? So this is what I think people, when I've been talking about repression, I really use repression and escape interchangeably, but they're actually different in psychological terms, and this is where I'll break it down for you guys. So escaping is essentially avoiding the feeling through distraction. So this is a very, very common one. I would say this is probably the most common one for people, would be using things like social media, scrolling, work, sex, porn, masturbation, food, drugs, alcohol, relationships, all of these things that we use to distract ourselves from feeling our feelings and feeling primarily our aloneness, right? So you get home from work and it's silent in the house and you just get this uncomfortable feeling of aloneness, so you grab your phone and you start scrolling and you turn on the TV, and we always have all this stuff happening. But what that's doing is it's actually adding more and more debris to your emotional onion. Okay, so this is what we want to be mindful of, is that how much of our distraction techniques are not allowing us to experience, right? We're not letting it be. And if we're not letting it be, we're not letting it go, right? Distraction is the opposite of letting it be. It's trying to change it. It's trying to avoid it, right? So we want to make sure that we have the tolerance to be able to sit with these emotions, so we can start to process them and let them go, and essentially shrink our emotional onions, so we have more space inside of us to feel joy and love and all the things that we want to cultivate in this life, okay? So one of the things that I always say to myself whenever I'm an anxious person, and I get anxiety in my stomach, and it happens once every few days. I'll just get this knot in my tummy, and it's accumulated from things that are happening in my mind, right? My mind creates scenarios. My mind is always thinking what ifs. What if I do this? What if this happens? And some of them are subconscious, some of them are not, and this ends up becoming, the activity in the mind creates the body's experience. And when we have this occurring constantly, we need to be reminding ourselves of courage, right? How can I choose courage over comfort in this moment? And if we're looking for comfort, we're looking for short-term comfort when we do all these strategies, when we distract ourselves. But if we really truly want long-term comfort, we need to learn to sit with these experiences, these feelings. So what I would say is choose courage over comfort, and develop like a warrior mentality, that I'm going to sit with this emotion. I'm going to sit with it, and I'm going to be a warrior, and I'm going to go through it. Because oftentimes the pent-up energy that we have inside of us, to sit with that takes a lot more energy than it does to just spend the 10 minutes to just be with that emotion and honor it and allow it to move and transform through you, in the sense of energetic discharge. Okay? So, and that really is the first step to surrender, right? Which is the work that we want to get really good at, because surrendering is the ultimate form of dealing with unwanted feelings, and we need to learn how to be courageous if we want to surrender. Okay. So this is my favorite part to talk about. I love talking about this stuff because triggers are amazing and horrible at the same time, and a lot of people struggle with triggers. Okay, so triggers, basically what ends up happening with triggers is we have this emotional onion, okay, and it's sitting inside of us wherever we manifest our stuff. So for me, it's in my tummy, and I have this onion that just sits in there, okay, and it's got layers and layers and layers of all the feelings that I never wanted to sit with and experience, because they don't move, right? They have their own encoded energetic energy based off of that memory or that experience that you had, and it doesn't move until you honor it, right? So and think about it like your onion is built in layers. It comes off in layers too, right? So we want to be very mindful of that. And how does it come off? When the pressure gets so big inside of us for this onion, what ends up having to happen? We end up attracting and creating, subconsciously or consciously, triggers in our environment that allow us to experience the feelings that need to be experienced, right? That's where it becomes a non-choice. Your body has an intelligence, energy has an intelligence, it needs to move. So you're being triggered into growth, okay? Why surrender is so powerful is that we are choosing to surrender. We're choosing to make this choice occur. So if you are genuinely wanting to decrease the frequency of triggers in your life, I strongly encourage you to, first off, invite them in, be open to them, and allow them to transmute you. But secondly, just try practicing more courage and allowing yourself to experience the emotions. Then you don't need to be forced into it by triggers, right? So when you're being triggered constantly, and there's always going to be themes around it too. And a big theme I'm working through right now is being really mindful of my pride and my ego, and I'm attracting people who are challenging me and criticizing me, and it's helping me grow because I didn't want to sit with those feelings. So I'm getting
so I'm getting opportunities to sit with them by practicing this tolerance to people triggering me. Okay, so triggers help us release this repressed energy. So whenever we have a trigger that comes up for us, we need to honor it. We need to explore it. Get curious about it. Lean into the trigger. And there's always a treasure in every single trigger that's trying to teach you something about yourself. So the people who have triggered me the most are, I have so much respect for these people, first of all, because they have been the biggest, most influential people in my growth, because they've shown me my shadows. They've shown me the things that I struggle to sit with. And yes, at first it was, I hated these people. I didn't want to have anything to do with them, and I blocked them off of social media and this and that. But then as you soften and you do this work and you make space inside of you by shrinking your emotional onion, you realize that these people actually were so pivotal in your growth. Okay, so these people are teaching you how to deal with your feelings, with your unwanted feelings, but you need to walk through the fire to get there. Okay, that's the thing about this work, is why a lot of people don't do it is because they don't want to walk through that fire. So, I'm someone who's walked through the fire. I understand both sides, and I'm telling you, the heaviness that I felt on the other side of the fire, where I didn't before walking through it, is way worse than walking through the fire and getting to the other side, where you have this vastness and this space inside of you to be able to attract all that you desire in your life. Okay, so the other thing about the emotional onion that's important to note is that the emotional onion is causing the thoughts, because your conditioning is trying to express itself through you in thought form. So as I just said, when we have these experiences inside of us, these are all feelings that we didn't feel. The emotional onion is made up of feelings, okay? But what do we need to instigate feelings? We need thoughts. We need thoughts to become so irritated and invasive that they trigger us to have these experiences where we then have to go in and peel back our emotional onion. Right? So when you're having thoughts, like let's say someone cuts you off, and then for the whole rest of the day, you're ruminating about this asshole that cut you off and how disrespectful it was, and how, this and this and this. We're playing the tape over and over and over again because you're irritating yourself so much to the point where you have a breakthrough and you're allowed to release a layer of your emotional onion. Okay, so the thoughts are they're serving a purpose for you. So that's what is key to remember in this work, is that yes, your thoughts are invasive. Yes, you're not your thoughts, but they do serve us a purpose for us. They allow us to get so pent up and irritated that we start to shed, which is important in this work. Okay. Okay, so that's the points I wanted to make as far as kind of the psychology behind it, the spirituality behind it, and now I want to break through some of the strategies, because these are really, really important. And obviously the number one strategy is going to be stillness. Find presence, sit with yourself, allow yourself to have the experience of these emotions. There's nothing greater than that. If you get anything from this video, please take that home from this video, because that is the meat and potatoes of this work. Is you need to find time to sit with these emotions, and it should be daily. You should spend 5-10 minutes a day checking in with your body, checking in with your mind, paying attention to your thoughts. What are the thoughts that are keep coming up, and the patterns that keep coming up in your life? That's the stuff you need to work with. Okay, but as far as concrete strategies, let go of fear or guilt that you have about the feeling. So we always are judging the feelings that come up for us, right? And one thing I want you to be mindful of is that when a feeling comes up for you, our immediate response is to feel fear, because we're like, oh, here we go again. I'm going to have to go through this cycle of anxiety or this cycle of depression or whatever it might be. And then we create it. The snowball starts to roll, okay? And we start to create it. So, and then the guilt kicks in, that, oh, I'm having this feeling again. I don't want to be experiencing this again. And we start to beat ourselves up. One strategy that I use to help me with this is that to trust that you are not regressing, you are releasing, right? Self-awareness, once you have it, it can't go anywhere. It's with you forever. That's the beautiful thing about self-awareness is when you have these experiences where you learn and you grow, it can't be taken away from you. So you're never ever regressing. You're always pushing forward and releasing from your emotional onion. And remember this, that inside your emotional onion, to even at the very core of it, you have to go through all of these experiences over again through emotional release. You're going to have that taste in your mouth again of that trauma that you went through or whatever, but just trust that it's not you reliving it, it's you releasing it. Okay? That has been the biggest thing for me. And whenever I have these things that come up for me, they don't last forever. And at the end of them, I smile and I say, thank you for peeling another layer off of my onion and allowing me to just have more space inside of me for all the joy that's coming, all the abundance that's coming, and that's already here in my life now. Okay? Allow yourself to get into the feeling itself. Again, that's the first point I made. Like you there has to be an element of allowance that's got to occur for you to sit with this. So it's a conscious choice. We make this conscious choice that when an emotion comes up and someone triggers us, that we're going to choose to lean into it. We're going to choose to sit with it and honor it, because there is no greater way to this healing work than to face it and go directly to the source. Okay. Let the resistance be there, but don't resist the resistance. Okay, that's a mouthful, but it's so true, because we want to become the witness to our process, right? We want to become the seat of consciousness that watches stuff play out, and by that I mean we have the ability even in the most heated argument to see the futility of it, to see the ego try and claw its way to being right. We have the ability to sit and watch that all play out, okay? So that's really important. So let the resistance be there means we recognize the resistance and we're choosing to allow it to be there, and we're not putting up resistance to the resistance, because the initial resistance is going to be felt as fear and guilt. And then when we have fear and guilt arise, we choose to resist that. So what I'm saying is recognize the fear and guilt and be with those experiences. Don't put resistance up to the resistance. So again, it's all about allowance, and it's all about, and how we can do this is we use our breath. So when we feel like we're judging our experience and we feel like we're rooting ourselves back into fear, or we feel the need to be right, take a big deep breath and just root yourself in your body, okay? Because your mind is trying to create all this drama and this activity up here, but where you're actually being asked to tend to is down here to your onion. Your onion is in your body. So draw your inner gaze down into your body and pay attention to the experience and sensations that are trying to happen down here, because this is where you're going to release this. And once this is released, you get a lot less activity up here, right? Because the activity up here, the conditioning up here is what is creating this down here, right? So we want to make sure that we deal with this, and then this up here is going to just dispel. The thoughts are just chattering about the conditioning in here. Okay, so when this is gone, there's no more chatter, and we find a lot more space in between our thoughts, and we have more gaps in our thinking, and we're able to be present more. Okay, that's the beautiful gift of life, is being present. And then I'm going to leave you guys with this, okay? So I follow the work of Matt Kahn. He is absolutely amazing. I love the guy. He's helped me so much. I've been following him now for almost 11 years. I would just run a bath, and he has these really long videos on YouTube, but I've watched all of them beginning to end. He's got hundreds of them, and I just run a bath and I listen to these. And this is a really cool affirmation that I use every day, and it goes like this. I recognize the light in these feelings, and I allow these feelings to return to the light now. Okay? I recognize the light in these feelings and allow these feelings to return to the light now. Basically, it's a perfect sentiment, because you're giving permission and honoring the feelings to be there, but you're saying that these no longer belong with me. They belong to the light. They belong to where they can be transmuted, and they no longer have to resonate with me. And then what you'll find is you'll just get a lightness inside of you, and because it's clearing, it's energetically giving permission for this energy to go. And remember, I said it, energy has an intelligence. It listens, and it can move when you give it permission to move. But without that permission, it's going to stay with you, and it's going to keep holding you back from achieving this beautiful sense of self, and this authenticity, and this confidence and this self-worth and all these things that we want to cultivate as human beings. That's the barrier. Your emotional onion is what's holding you back from getting there. So start to sit with yourself, allow yourself to peel back these layers of your onion, and beautiful things are going to happen for you. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and if you have not yet, please subscribe to my channel. Always appreciate that. I got a lot of great videos to help support people in their journey, moving away from shame and suffering into more authenticity and love. So glad to have you guys here with me. Love y'all. Take care.